No? Okay, so let's continue here. So life as you see it, it is time available for awakening or distraction. So whatever is there, apart from this quest for truth, it is there intended to suck the life, to use that time, to waste that time. It is there for distraction. And even that time that you are engaged, focused in the quest for freedom, even that time is twisted and used up in distraction. So whatever forces are driving you into other directions, they are there for distraction. And one of these forces, one of these important forces that consume a lot of time, a lot of time, that goes even or especially into the quest for truth. It is the need, the dependency on approval. This is a very important axis. Approval, the need for approval, and the intense fear for rejection. And this permeates whatever scenario, whatever investment you are engaged all the time. It is very difficult to remove yourself from these investments because it gets sophisticated. As you try to remove from it, it gets more and more sophisticated. But it is very important for you to get out from these investments. So this need for approval or the fear of rejection, it's not the same thing, it's a little bit different, but okay, so this need for approval, which is motivated in essence, maybe not in essence, but okay, for that fear of rejection, because rejection is one of the most painful human experiences. So that need makes you create a lot of different characters that become alive. I will explain this better. So instead of presenting yourself in the most simple way, you tend to create different characters depending on the circumstances that present themselves. You tend to present one type of character for friends, for parents, for brothers, for whatever situation appears, a different character is created. And of course, for spiritual environments, that also brings a big character. Most important because for seekers of truth, this is very common, intense, and it really binds you, like all the others. But in spiritual grounds, the difference is, this is where you should be working your freedom and not creating more delusions. So for those who have seen, who have been away from certain environments, certain conditions, for example, they have spent some time away from their parents or from certain friends, and they haven't been engaging with them for a while, and they have been working on their freedom, working on these things. So for those who have been doing this, they can have the vision that when they are exposed again to that same environment, they start feeling the same pulse of behavior, of reaction, of ways of responding to others that were not present for a long time, like they had a life of its own. And they do. This is one of the problems. They have a life of its own. You create more or less an image according to what you imagine that are the others' expectations, or that are that which they would approve or admire or feel inspired by. It doesn't matter. And with the feedback that others give to you, an interaction, in that interaction, that character which is in the middle of you and the others becomes like almost a living entity. And in automatic, as you are exposed to those conditions, to those relationships, to those interactions, you tend to respond in that same way, automatically. You tend to become that person that reacts in that form. So you have a lot of characters, and none of them is you. And this takes a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of investment. And as you are trying, sincerely trying to overcome this, you will see that automatically whatever you are doing is tainted by this need for approval. It is everywhere, reflects everywhere. And in that which is more important for us now, which is the quest for freedom, most of your investments will be also tainted by this. So solitude, for example, is a good way to work primarily, to do a primary work on this. There's no one there, so you can work this need for approval to remain as long as possible alone, so that you can gain a little bit of freedom from this need to be approved, because it is like a disease, it's constant. But eventually it will not work, it will not solve everything. You have to be exposed to interactions, to relations, so that you really can be free from this. And this takes time, takes a lot of awareness, a lot of focus. And of course, blessing also. In one of the ways that this comes into the spiritual path, it's, for example, when you're under guidance. You have a master, you're under guidance. And you're trying to, how do you say this? What is the word? To please the master. And to please the master, it could be good for you to receive its blessings, but when it becomes something for approval, it is quite different. Because in a relationship that aims liberation, you're just feeding your delusion. And whatever guidance is given to you, if you're doing it to please the master so that he will approve you, instead of doing that so that you can work up your freedom, then this tends to give the opposite result that you're expecting. And then the ghost of rejection comes and pain continues. So at all times, motivation is the fundamental aspect of spiritual life. So you need to take care of this approval need that takes probably 90% of your time to outgrow this need. So in practical terms, first, the experience of rejection. You have to stop running away from it. And the need to approve, for approval, you have to cut these investments that tend towards approval. With work, with silence, with meditation, intense, you will get a little bit of distance from this. And it's with this distance that you start working these things. So that instead of, because those who are prone for approval, they tend to tune with others' expectations and try to, at their level best, to be at the level of others' expectations. This creates a lot of pain because in that investment, by tuning to other expectations, you are deviating from your own ones and from your values and from who you really are. So in a sense, to please others, you reject yourself. So there's no way that that can be constructive. So instead of tuning with others and with expectations from others, you must tune yourself to yourself and present that which is more simple, less complex. More simple means less complex, less faked, and to present that which is more you, not the character, that which is previous to the character, to that social character in that specific situation, that specific context. And if you have gained this distance, you will be observing the pullings, not being swept by them. In those interactions, you will see that there is a need, a pulling to react in certain ways, to interact in very specific ways. And you must stop that. Remove yourself from that. Whatever comes out must be an expression of that which is more simple. And if you do that, you will see that inner clashes will come because the need for approval is there. The fear of rejection is there. So for you to present that which is more simple, you will have to go through the fear of rejection. Imaginary one. And probably, if you succeed this part, then the rejection itself, because this entity is alive, this character that you have created. And this means that you want to behave like this in that environment, and that environment, others are expecting you to behave in that way, for the good and for the worst and for the better. This is something that sometimes people have a difficulty understanding this. It is for the worst and for the better. If you play the role of the nice guy in that situation, everybody will want you to play the nice guy. But if you play the bully, for example, everybody will want you to play the bully, even if they say that they don't want. You have become a character in their own theater, personal theater. And they expect you to behave exactly as you did. And these tendencies will be there. So for the better or for the worst, you are expected to behave as you normally do. And if you don't, rejection will come in a way. And by even to just think about going against that, it brings tremendous pain, fear, anxiety. And for the seeker of truth, this is the indication that that is where I have to go. And none of these words are about fixing relationships or fixing your relationship with the world. It has nothing to do with this. It has to do with freeing yourself from these shackles, from these forces that force you to act, to behave, to invest, and to constantly deny that which is more simple, that which is more you, at least at that level. For some people, a very big part of seekers, this need for approval eats up 99% of what they are doing. They don't want it if they are aware of it, but still it continues depending on the power that rejection has over them, the fear of rejection. So this is why in yoga it is said that the fruits of your work should be given to God. And that includes, of course, approval, because it is a nectar that seduces, drives, intoxicates. And it is as dangerous or even more dangerous than the fear for rejection. But to remove oneself from this axis, approval, rejection, it is very, very, very difficult. Even to have the vision of how deep this is, how deep this goes, how it consumes all investments, how it is difficult not to taint investments with this. It takes time. Because in the automatics, enjoying that little moment of approval, and that depends on the level of self-esteem. If there is a high self-esteem, then you can enjoy those moments of approval a little bit longer. If self-esteem is very low, it is very difficult to enjoy even that approval because you don't believe it. If others are approving, you will not believe them. You will think that, or probably they want something back, or they are not being honest, or whatever. You will tend to dismiss that approval, continue to fight for it, but dismissing it. And for those who are living this, it's like a dream bubble. Even if you try to make a hole through that bubble, they won't allow it. So coming out from automatics is very difficult. And this axis of approval versus rejection, it is a very, very, very strong one. It comes from the roots, from the basis of where these character buildings happen. So from the beginning of this human character, the basic one, the more simple one, how it is constructing itself, it is based on these approval rejection experiences and the way they are interpreted. This is very important because none of this is objective. It is relative to the one who is experiencing it. So sometimes it is better to abstain from acting, from doing good, even as you are observing that there is this quest for approval behind it. You see, these fears, these needs, they are like everything else. You can, to be free from it, you have to abstain from it long enough. There will be strong reactions to this abstention, like a drug addict when it's trying to abstain from that substance and the body is cleaning itself. There will be strong reactions, but eventually you will overcome it. And the experience of rejection, you must stop to run away from it. So as you present, in those situations that come to you, no need to go after these situations. As you present that which is more simple, which is more in tune to you, those rejections will come. They come all the time, in a way, but they will come. The difference is you will not have these barriers, these defense mechanisms that these characters you have created to those situations represent, because you created that character because you imagined that image of yourself, that self-created image of yourself, is what will be better approved in that environment. Not even questioning from where these ideas come from, what are their value. This tends to go automatic. So without this protection, that rejection will be stronger in the beginning, yes, but then it will change, because as you're not defending yourself, as you're not putting any barriers, first you will think that you are more exposed, more fragile, more prone to get hurt. But with time we will see that that exposure brings the exact opposite of what you believed. Because you will see that things in the beginning, what you thought the size of the impact would be, it will be much less. And as you're not defending, fear will start disappearing. And eventually you will see that your value, your self-value, was never in the other's hands, but in yours. You will understand with time that all these characters you were creating, you were denying yourself in that process. And that was the biggest source of pain for you. Not the rejection of others, but the fact that you were rejecting yourself into investing into these images, because they were denying your aspects and not allowing you to work even these aspects. It becomes like a dream in a dream in a dream. Instead of just one dream from where you need to wake up from, it becomes a dream inside of a dream, inside of a dream, inside of a dream. So bringing things to simplicity, it is a must, it is a need. Because what people only can say is, oh, but I'm doing this for the best reasons. I'm trying my level best. I'm doing everything that I can. And they don't even understand the level of commitment, of compromising that these things take, and how their investments are twisted despite their conscious beliefs. And then you see yourselves like everyone sees it, but for those who are in quest for freedom, this is much more important. They see themselves facing situations where they have to be honest with themselves, and they have to do what is more important for their spiritual quest, or they will have to defend their image, their created image, because they create it and then they feed it, then protect it and protect it and protect it. So if that image is threatened in any way, they become aggressive. And in the spiritual path, it is the path towards humbleness. And in humbleness, where is the room for this self-importance, for the caring of these structures, from the defending these structures? There's no room for it. And in these spiritual environments, there's this tendency of creating a new image, the spiritual character, that you imagine that others will appreciate, will give value, will respect, will think that you're a higher being or something. So you have to be nice, to be good, to be gentle, to resemble how do you say this? Harmlessness. That's not probably the word, but and where is the room for authenticity? So the same movie will continue in a different environment, in different circumstance, but it is much more detrimental in these circumstances because, well, you're in a path of freedom. And in that path for freedom, there can't be any room for this. And when you're in a path for freedom, this idea of spirituality and the rest ceases. There is only spirituality. There is only opportunities for letting go, to embrace humbleness, to uphold the highest teachings. But even this, for some seekers, the tendency will be, if they have the strength enough for this, to uphold these things still for approval. In the quest for freedom, all your attention is needed. There is no room for anything else. If you're serious, if you're thirsty for liberation, you will have to give 100% of your time. And even that is no guarantee of success. But still you will have better chances. And for those who may think that, oh, if focusing 100%, dedicating 100% is not even a guarantee for success, well, so maybe I should do something else. Well, if you're thinking like this, then you should do something else. Because commitment, outward commitment, circumstantial commitment, dedicating your whole life to freedom, in whatever that means in terms of circumstances, it is first step. But to focus intensely, to go beyond that which you want to see, because that is important. Most of what you're seeing is what you need to see to maintain your world. And to go beyond this, it needs a lot of work, a lot of sincerity, a lot of challenges gone through. It needs a lot of things. And if it is tainted by approval, complicates. So, a life which is driven by the quest for freedom, by the desire for liberation, you must expect it to be full of challenges, of difficulties from the fact that you are dealing with your most inner pains, and that means your most rooted beliefs. It cannot be seen as a shield from your inner pains, from your difficulties, something that will keep you from exposing yourself to these difficulties. Because if you look at it this way, then it's just another construct. You see, delusion is rooted on this idea, more or less, I am this body-mind complex. And to break this, it is even harder than to deal with the fear of death. Not as an idea, the actual experience of death. So each barrier that you go through, fears are dealt with. So if you go with this idea that I will not be exposed to difficulties, I will be surrounded by Shanti people and all of this, and it is a way of feeling better, of being accepted because these people are more nice and they accept more, they respect more. This is mistaken. And it is driven by the same needs, by the same fragilities that are not being addressed, and they will continue to grow and to grow and to grow. And those characters, they suck your life, your time, they drive you into automatics, they will not let that expression to be more and more authentic. It will tend to go the opposite direction. So one of the basic things is to learn to deal with those opinions that are different from yours, from those who don't see you as a good person, not bothering if the other is thinking wrongly of you. So the more this happens, the more you will have to learn to use this really in your benefit. And that is to just be there, exposed to that rejection. It's not really a rejection. In objective terms, it's just relative to the way you are perceiving it. It's just a different opinion. Someone that doesn't like that aspect in you or whatever. But knowing that and being exposed to that, it is very important. So whenever you are exposed to this, or situations, for example, that you see that from this interaction that is coming, the other is starting to form an idea which you believe it is wrong and detrimental to you. Allow it and deal with the pain that is arising. And dealing with it is just being exposed to it. And stopping the urges to change that idea that the one is building about you. It doesn't matter what the other thinks. If it is right, if it is wrong, because it can be right, and that is your boundary, okay? So this is the image that I want to pass. You're not liking it, that's your problem. Or if it is wrong, that is not the idea that I want to pass. Don't do anything to change it. All those situations that rob you your time, your investment, your vitality, they become then opportunities for you to release yourself from them. And when you're in a situation, for example, that there is this pulling to do something, to help someone even, but there's that little taint there that is telling you that you will look good or you will be seen in certain way, it is better to abstain from it. And then things, as you move from these grossest aspects, then there will be the more subtle ones. And this is more difficult, because sometimes you can use this in a way, oh, I'm not helping that person. If in a way helping that person awakens a different fear in you. So instead of dealing with that fear, you say, oh, I'm not doing this because I don't want to look good. So in these aspects, when it becomes more subtle, a lot more attention is needed. So this is a big aspect that absorbs time, absorbs attention. This quest for approval and this running away from rejection. And in this context of guidance, for example, the more your actions are motivated by the need for approval, the more you will see that the fruits that come from it, even if you're doing what is being told, or even if you're using your best intentions, they will come in, they will give the opposite fruits. That recognition will not be there, and without knowing, you are creating a lot of other confusions. And then the feedback that comes is exactly the opposite that you are looking for. And you will see this by the pain that will arise. And if the pain is arising, you can see it, haha. If this pain is arising, expectation was there. So there is normal drive, and there is the drive of the seeker of truth. They are more or less opposite. So if there's any questions, you can send now or wherever you are seeing this video, and I will answer in the next satsang. So for today, it is all. Next satsang will be probably Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, UTC -3. Till then, observe these structures. If you have doubts, send them. Make it real for you.